ladies and gentlemen. I would like to open this meeting of the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission for April 12th, 2023. If you will all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everyone. At this time, I will open up our first public comment. No action will be taken on matters raised under public comment until the matter itself has been included on an agenda as an action item. There is a 3-minute time limit per person. If you do come up, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. And if you are here for a particular item on the agenda, we will open public comment for each item, so you'll have an opportunity to speak on that item at that time. So go right ahead.
Good evening. My name is Laura Larson, Larsen. I just wanted to make everybody aware that to please contact your legislators regarding SB 419. What they're trying to do on SB 419 has two functions: creating a giant unaccountable government database with your health records and expanding Medicaid to allow any illegal alien in Nevada to use it free of charge. So who's picking up the bill? We are. This will drive up the medical bills of every law-abiding citizen to fund health care of people who shouldn't even be there. The bill will bring forward lots of criminals who entered the country illegally and complain that they don't have rights if they get hurt, and that is difficult to access medical care. It is difficult if you enter it is not difficult if you enter the country legally. Also, I wanted to bring everyone's attention that we're having a red tie event for the Nye County Republican Central Committee on May 20th. Of this year at 5:30 to 9. Please go on the Eventbrite website or go down to the Nye County Republican Central Committee office at 760 Pahrump Valley Boulevard, Suite 9 and 10, or you can call the office at 775-727-2500. The speaker is going to be Wayne Allen Root. And the tickets are $75. Table of 8 can be $500, and chairman's table is $125. This is being held at the Pahrump Nugget. We're going to have dinner, a silent auction, dessert dash, and raffles. So, and we're asking everyone to have cocktail attire. So I hope that everybody can, we can sell some tickets and raise some funds for the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Is there any other general public comment at this time?
Yes, I have a caller on the phone.
Okay.
Ms. Nelson, go ahead and speak and spell your name for the record.
Yes, Amy Nelson, Nelson. I wanted to let everyone know that Matt Sadler is having GCON meetings, and that stands for Grassroots Conservatives of Nevada. He has his meetings every fourth Monday at 6 p.m. at a Hope Bail Bondsman location on 160 and Basin, and is for all conservatives. And the last meeting, the first meeting, was an outstanding representation of the conservatives in Nye County. About 35 people came, and there's more interested now. So I hope one of you guys can spread the news and come yourself to find out what's going on, or even contribute some of the information that people have questions of. And then on May the 7th, there's a conservative women's tea between 2 and 3 p.m. at 6601 Fox Avenue. And it's just a get-together for conservative women, and it's going to be a nice event. And I wanted to give kudos while I have the floor to Brett Waggoner and the board members, the commission members. You guys do an outstanding job. I brag about you all the time. I'm just hoping one of you might come on and talk about things on the 97.7 FM radio show. Nobody's going to be attacked. Nobody's going to get, ambushed. Just a conversation on some of the things that people are talking about that you have information of. And I'm looking forward to the meeting tonight. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Do we have any other callers on the phone or any other public comment on the phone?
I have no additional callers.
Any other public comment in the chambers? Okay, seeing none and having none on the phone, we'll close our first public comment, and then we'll move on to number 3. For possible action, approval of the minutes for the regular RPC meeting scheduled March 15th, 2023. I did turn in some minor typographical corrections to staff. Were there any other changes or anything? Corrections? Commissioner Carbone?
I'm sure glad you're the grammar expert, because I sure didn't catch those.
In a former life, I was a proofreader, so.
Chairman, I wasn't.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't sitting here for the last meeting, but I was sitting out there, so I'll make a motion to approve.
I have to open public comment first, so we'll just hold on to that. So. Yeah.
No, technically
appreciate-
it doesn't matter, sorry. You can actually make a motion before public comment. That way the public knows what the motion is.
Yeah, he's right. Okay, so at this time, if we have no other discussion, then I will open public comment. Is there anyone who wanted to comment on the minutes from the March 15th meeting?
I have no comments on the phone.
Okay, having none on the phone and none in the chambers, we'll close public comment. We do have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes with the submitted corrections.
I second.
Second from Commissioner Turner. I'll call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Turner.
Aye.
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 Those are approved. Number 4, for possible action, approval of modifications to the agenda. Approval of the agenda after considering requests to rearrange, hold, or remove items. Do we have any changes this evening or modifications to the agenda?
Madam Chair, we have no changes to the agenda.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Then I will open up public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on the agenda?
I have no comments on the phone.
Okay, having none on the phone and none in the chambers, we'll close public comment, and then I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to approve as submitted with a second, and I'll call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Blackstock.
Aye.
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 Then we will move forward with our motion, or our agenda. Number 5, correspondence and announcements. I'd like to take a moment to welcome John Koenig back to the RPC. Welcome back to the board. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. I was telling Frank and some of you up here, this is like, actually, it's more like old times now than it would have been, except Marla is also here. So it used
She
to
was
be
the-
me sitting there, Frank sitting there, and Marla sitting there. So,
Yep, and it's good to have Marla back tonight, too.
yes, I miss her.
All right, so do we have any other correspondence or announcements this evening?
Chair, I don't understand what's happening here. Could you explain that to me? I mean,
Musical chairs, that's why your phone was making music. All right, any other correspondence or announcements this evening? Okay, having none, we'll close that, and we'll move on to item number 6, Commission Committee Director Reports. 6A, BOCC Liaison Report. Commissioner Carbone.
thank you, Chair. Yes, just to remind everybody, the Board of County Commissioners meeting's on the 18th of this month. The agenda is pretty full. There's some great items to be on there. Hope to see you there. A lot of them are your guys' items, so just to let you know.
We have to keep you busy. You're welcome. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Carbone. On to the Director's Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be giving the report this evening. So planning applications for March, total applications received was 284, and that was 64 than last month. Total applications processed 247, that's 123 more than last month. Since July 1st, there's been 1,683 planning applications received and 285 new code complaints received. And that compares to 1,627 planning applications and 240 code compliance complaints for the same time period last year. Building permits for March, single-family residential, we had 39 permits issued, which was 18 more than last month. And multifamily permits, 2, which was 1 more than last month. Commercial permits, 15, which was 1 more than last month. And total permits issued for all categories, 236. That's 73 more than last month. Total building permit inspections was 474. That's 86 more than last month. Let's see, so far since July 1st, there's been 208 single-family residential permits. And that compares to 375 single-family residential permits at this same point last year. Code compliance for March, we had 29 new complaints. That's 12 less than last month. And cases that were closed, 23. That's 1 less than last month. Update on the previous items heard by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission. So we had a bill, 2022-12. That was the mobile food vending bill. And that was heard by the board on March 21st. Board of County Commissioners, March 21st, and that was adopted with a 5-0 vote. And we had there was a zone change, 22-24, that was for changing 5 parcels to the general commercial zoning district for the corner of Homestead and Highway 160. That was for the Kingdom property. That was heard by the RPC February 15th and was recommended for approval to the board, and the board at their March 21st meeting approved that with a 5-0 vote. And then zone change 22-26, that was to change 6.91 acres from light industrial to heavy industrial at 250 North Kitty Hawk Drive. That was for the Blackjack Fireworks, their new warehouse, and that was heard by the RPC February 15th and was recommended for approval, and then the board at their March 21st meeting approved that zone change 5-0. And then we had a waiver 23-2, which was to waive the asphalt drive aisles and the paving requirements for a mini storage facility on Highway 160, and also to waive the block wall requirement. And that was denied by the RPC at your 315 meeting. And that applicant has now filed an appeal of your decision, and that will be heard by the board at their 418 meeting. And that concludes the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osborne. I appreciate it. All right, moving on to our regular agenda items. Number 7, for possible, oh, wait, before I read this, I just want to remind everybody that if you have any disclosures, please make sure for any of these items, you disclose them at the time of the item. Okay, moving on. 7, for possible action, CU 23-5, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on an application for a conditional use permit to allow multifamily residential townhomes to be built on general commercial GC zone parcel located at 1571 East Basin Avenue, assessor's parcel number 038-241-22, Khosrow Alichi, thank you, and Batu Esmil, thank you. I apologize for butchering that name. Property owners, applicants. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the Board of County Commissioners or is otherwise announced. Staff.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner, and good evening. The application before you this evening is for a conditional use permit to allow multifamily townhomes to be built on a general commercial parcel. Multifamily residences are permissive with an approved CUP and site development plan. The applicants believe that there's a need for residential development in the area as the parcel is within walking distance to shops, offices, etc. and they are proposing to develop the 1 acre parcel with 6 buildings that include 4 townhomes per building for a total of 24 units at 24,000 square feet. Each townhome is proposed to be 2-story, 2-bedroom with 1,000 square feet of living space and an additional 64 square feet of porch. The applicant has supplied elevations, floor plans, and a conceptual plan of the property that includes open space and a dog park for residents, and that has been supplied in your backup for review. The townhomes will be available for purchase or rent and will be secured by fencing and a sliding gate for entry/exit, and there will be no security guards on site. The surrounding development is comprised of retail, veterinary services, and mental health services. The parcel is located approximately 120 feet from the Nye County Sheriff's Department and approximately 1/2 mile to Petrick Park and the Pahrump Valley Junction Strip Center. The addition of residential development will complement those uses, provide housing opportunities that the town requires. The development will produce extra traffic to the residences. However, producing excessive noise, smoke, fumes, glares, or odors should only be during the construction phase. A little background on the property. The parcel was created in the Cavada Valley Unit 11 subdivision that was recorded February 5th, 1974. It was zoned general commercial in June 2007 and given the master plan designation to CDA, Community Development Area, during the 2014 PRPD Master Plan update. The townhome project will be serviced by Great Basin Water for water and sewer and Valley Electric Association for power. A site development plan will be required, and the applicant must build in accordance with Nye County Code Title 1704. And the Nye County Code Title 1516. The site development plan is reviewed and approved by the Planning Department, Building Department, Public Works Department, and the Fire Department. The addition of the residential development along Basin Avenue allows for, it adds a new element of design to the area and provides housing solutions for the community. Townhomes, condos, and apartments located near goods and services in a business district tend to have more value than dwellings located away from these services. The development will provide an affordable solution for those individuals who are entry-level teachers, police, or first responders that cannot afford a down payment and mortgage, that are single parents or single individuals that recently moved to the area and require housing, those that prefer not to live on acreage with yard responsibilities, those that are unable to qualify for a home due to a new job or no credit history and can't afford a down payment, those that prefer to live in the center of town to be close to amenities and work, for college students making minimum wage that may have roommates, and even newlyweds that aren't ready to buy a house. We did send the staff report and the plan to Public Works, the Nye County School District, Nye County Sheriff's Office, and Pahrump Valley Fire Rescue. The comments received were from Nye County Public Works that the project should go through site development. We received no comments from the Nye County School District. Sheriff McGill responded and stated he does not foresee a problem with this development. And Chief Lewis also responded and stated that from an application standpoint, he did not see a problem. From a service standpoint, obvious demands for response will increase accordingly, and our current impact fees won't cover the potential cost increases to ensure safety and responsible models. The required impact fees for one fourplex townhome unit is $11,988. The breakdown per section within the impact fees for per townhome dwelling unit, the fire station receives $127. Parks receives $273. The sheriff's office receives $104. Streets receives $893, and schools receive $1,600 per townhome dwelling unit. As you can tell, Chief Lewis is correct. The impact fees themselves are not near enough to cover the cost of new equipment and new employees. Let's see. All of the design criteria, including parking, landscaping, lighting, trash enclosures, screening walls and fences, will be addressed during the site development review process by planning staff. Let's see. The proposed development does not appear to create excessive additional requirements, and nor will it be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Staff recommends approval of this application, and I'm available for any questions. I also believe our applicant is in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medici. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay. Applicant, if you'd like to tell us about your project, if you have anything to add to the staff report? I do need you to come up to the microphone and make sure the green light is on, and state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
My name is Khosrow, Khosrow, and the last name is Alighchi, Alighchi. And as Ms. Medici pointed out, basically I noticed that, on all major cities, commercials, housing, multifamily is next to commercial. And example, Las Vegas, you can find plenty of them. And as Ms. Medici pointed out, they're close to all the amenities. And that's why people get multifamily. They rent or they buy multifamily in order to be as close as possible to their workplace and also to other socioeconomic facilities in the neighborhood. And I thought, this would be a good area for people to move in. Actually, my last workplace was just right behind that parcel. So.
Thank you. I do have a question for you. Have you read, do you understand, and do you agree to the conditions of approval as outlined in the staff report?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Sure. I noticed you have a dog park lined out there, but there's nothing at all for children. I mean, you're on a major road, and it's a two-bedroom apartment, so I assume there's going to be kids, because yes. Mom and Dad sleep in one, and normally the second bedroom is for children. So you're going to have children out there playing, and there's nowhere for them to play.
Well, I'm flexible. I can provide, the play area for the children. Okay, so
I mean,
no problem.
I'm assuming they need a play area, and there's also need something to prevent them from accidentally running out into the middle of the street.
There's going to be a fence around the property, and it's going to be pretty safe. The children will not be able to jump over the fence.
Children are children, they can do things.
Well,
they can
unless
do
they're
things that
teenagers.
you and I can't. Put it that way.
Yes.
I know I've seen some teenagers do amazing things, but
that's all I have for him. I have other comments later.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Koenig. Did you have anything?
I would like to make one comment that I appreciate that there's actually some green space to this and that you haven't tied everything up with parking lot, so thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
The hillbilly in me is going to wreck that last name. Can you pronounce that for me again?
Your
last name, yes.
Alighchi?
Alighchi, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Alighchi, first I want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
We have been up here saying location, location, location.
Exactly.
And it sounds like somebody finally listened. So
Yes.
right next to Walmart, there's other amenities right there. It's in a good spot. Thank you for bringing this to us.
Oh, you're welcome.
I hope you get to move forward with the project.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other, oh, Commissioner Carbone, please.
So Alicia, is these places are going to be for sale or just for rent or lease?
Actually, it's option for both. They can either rent or sell, either one.
Okay. And you do know that you're building right next to a dispensary, correct? Yeah. Just letting you know.
Dispensaries right now, they are everywhere right now. And, there's no possible way to.
Don't have a lot of dispensaries right next to homes, so just want to let you know.
Okay, all right.
I did have one other question. I'm sorry if this was already stated. Is this going to be a common interest community, or is there going to be an HOA or anything like that with this?
You mean an entry, common interest community? Yes, it's going to be, the HOA, probably, yes. Something we need to take care of the whole area. The landscaping, it needs to be taken care of. We can't just, have the owners responsible. You have to provide maintenance and everything else. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for the applicant or discussion at this time? Okay, seeing none, then I'll open public comment. If there's any member of the public that wishes to comment on this, come on down, state your name, spell your last name for the record, and you have 3 minutes. And look, if you just want to have a seat for a moment, Mr. Alici, we do have a comment.
Hi. Laura Larson, Larsen. Mr. Carbone, thank you for addressing that, because that's what I was going to also say regarding the fact that you got it's right in between the vision as well as you got a dispensary that's right there. The children also sit there and, you're going to put kids right there, right in the middle of everything. Everything is going to be too crowded. You're not going to be able to have the fire department to come in an emergency. 24 units is like they're all combining everybody all together like a bunch of rats, okay? What do they want to do? We're not a mini Vegas, okay? We're not. We're a rural area, okay? What do they want to do? Make us a 15-minute city? Oh, you'll own nothing, but you'll be happy, okay? Not going to happen, okay? It shouldn't happen. It should be in a different location, not right by a dispensary. And also think about this, the dog park that they're talking about that they're putting there, they're saying there's going to be gravel there. I don't know if any of you have our dogs. I know I do. And I had to get a grassy area just alone for my dog to make sure that it wouldn't burn its feet, especially when you got over 100-degree heat. Turns into 135 on the pavement and the rocks. Okay? It's not good for the dogs either, and as well as the children. Okay? We're not a mini Vegas. They want to sit there and move it down the street. Move it down more on the other side by the park, maybe. On the other side. Don't put it right near a dispensary. They can walk across the street to the grass to walk their dog, to have fun with their children. Okay? But don't put it right near a dispensary. Don't put it right there. It's so crammed together. You think about it. You got 2 cars to each family. Times that by 24. That's a pretty tight area for parking, in addition to an emergency with the fire department coming in there. If there's an emergency. We have to think about those things. I know it's a great area. I understand, because they're putting it near Walmart's, you got all the amenities, everything right there. But put it on the other side across the street from the park. Why not just find a different location regarding the fact that there's plenty of land on the other side? There's nothing there. I think you guys need to rethink this just a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Do we have any other public comment this evening?
Yes, I have a public comment on the phone.
Right ahead.
Amy, you can spell and state your name for the record.
Nelson. Can you hear me?
We can, go right ahead, Ms.
Hello?
Nelson.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I think it's a great location because it's not on the other side where there is residential homes where these kinds of places can look right into your backyard. That was the big problem that we had with the ones that wanted to go up on Basin right down from the park. All the residents showed up in horror, thinking that there was going to be a 3-story building right next to their homes. But my big problem is always water. I've not had any mention of water, and I'll tell you the truth. The backup was so large that I didn't download it, and I didn't see all of it to see if water was even one of the criteria. But I estimate, about 8 acre-feet of water being used on a project this large, and that's my big concern. If anybody has done that, as far as dispensaries, like Frank Carbone said, they're already around residential areas. The latest one that was discussed is the one where the castle used to be, right off of Highway 160, and there's homes back there complaining about all the traffic in and out of the drive-through dispensary in that location. There's a lot of problems that people have with this helter-skelter mix of where they're going to put dispensaries. But as far as 2-story apartment buildings or 3-story apartment buildings, location. This is a pretty darn good location, but I would like to have more mention of the water use. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Further public comment? Go right ahead, Mr. Bohannon.
Hi, Tim Bohannon, Bohannon. The dispensary question I think I have, and more of a comment, is do we really have any zoning rules and regulations around the dispensaries? I think the answer is probably not quite yet. It may be open for consideration and tightening up any rules or regulations around that, just for clarity of the community, if you will. As for multifamily housing, we need it. Location, I'm okay with. But bottom line is we need multifamily housing out here. We suffer from that drastically. I've lived in multifamily. I've lived in single family. You name it, it's fine. Big towns, small towns, towns smaller than this, absolutely. And do you still have multifamily? Yes. So we need to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bohannon. Do we have any further public comment?
I don't have any comments on the phone.
Thank you. Having none on the phone and none in the chambers, we'll close public comment. Mr. Alici, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? And please state your name and spell your name for the record. Just, can you press the button that says push and make sure the green light's on?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Regarding the water usage, we heard about the grass. Well, the grass is using extra water, and we need to conserve water. So, but I'm open to any suggestion. And as far as fire, I'm a civil engineer by trade. I'm a registered civil engineer in the state of Nevada. And there's just to put your mind at rest, there's a 24-foot driveway right in the middle of the parking lot. So that's enough for a fire truck. And also there's enough turnaround for the fire truck. And we complied with that request right at the beginning of the project. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Mr. Alici or any further discussion?
I have further discussion.
Go right ahead, Commissioner Koenig.
I guess one of my problems again, and I think I was at last month, I was kind of emphatic about it, is that again, We're taking something that's supposed to be commercial, and we're making it residential. And the two don't go together as far as I'm concerned. Commercial is commercial, residential is residential. I don't know why multifamily ever got added to every commercial, or neighborhood commercial at least, all right? I have a problem with that. I don't like it. There should be commercial going in there. Again, it's right next to the commercial, which includes a pot house. And I'm guessing that with the new laws, right next to the pot house is gonna be, guess what? A place where you can go in and enjoy yourself, okay? Because that's where it's going, and I know there's gonna be one, or they're gonna try to put one there. Whether they okay it or not, don't know, but probably it will be there.
Yes.
Again, it's a 1 acre site. You're gonna put between 72 and 84 people in 1 acre. Someone mentioned rats. Well, there you go. 1 acre is 43,560 square feet. This community with the porches takes up 25,536 square feet. So it's well over half of an acre taken up. The rest of it is for people to walk around and kids to play in. As the fire chief said, the impact fees aren't going to even come close to paying for any new equipment he thinks he's going to need. The sheriff doesn't have a problem with this one, obviously, because his office is right across the street. No big deal for him, so we're good there. And I'll go back to my comments from last month on conditional use permits. You know, it's permissive with a conditional use permit. To me, that means it's not permissive anymore, because you have to have something else. So, and I'm going to take something that was written by Mr. Dave Walnum. I don't know if he's here or not, but the last agenda item we have is, he talks about the many disadvantages to attached single-family dwellings. Common walls transmitting unwanted sounds, noxious smells going through, plumbing problems in one causing damages to the others. The connection between units does not provide aesthetic appeal, safety, security, or any other benefit to the occupant of the surrounding community as a whole. So, you know, it's nice to have all of these things squished together with a common wall in between them, but kids scream, babies cry, someone's trying to sleep because they have to go to work in the morning, you have problems. You always will have problems in something like that. So those are my comments, and I can't support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Koenig. Do we have any other discussion?
Madam Chair, if I could just respond to that, there was a question or comment earlier about dispensaries and if there's any zoning regulations regarding where dispensaries can go. I just wanted to state that dispensaries are only allowed in the light industrial, heavy industrial, general commercial, commercial manufacturing, or the business opportunity zones. And then also a special use permit is required. So the dispensaries can't just go basically anywhere. There's only certain zones and requires board approval. So just wanted to state that.
Thank you.
Yes, Madam Commissioner, I have a couple of things as well. Thank you.
Go right ahead.
All right. Kind of in answering the public comment questions, the dog park, the playground and fire access, as well as the water will be discussed, and we will go through everything, you know, inch by inch during the site development process. This isn't something that is approved at the RPC level. It is approved in-house with the planning department, with Public Works, the fire department, and the building department. That's to ensure that all the codes are being met. And another thing, there were comments about that dispensaries, you know, are popping up in neighborhoods and things. While this isn't a complete urban area, and whether this isn't a popular comment, but this is more of a suburban area than urban and rural. And on Blue Diamond Highway, there's an apartment complex and there's a dispensary right in front where those residents get a discount because they live close. So there's that. The other thing is that as far as apartments and multifamily dwellings go, not everybody can afford a single-family residence. And yes, unfortunately, there is crying kids. We lived in an apartment when my boys were small as well. And you know what? Parents take care of their kids. They take care of their animals when they're playing in the dog park. They take care of their kids when they're on the playground. So to discount a multifamily project like this just because it's in a general commercial area and it's not something that is the norm in the Pahrump Valley, I think that's a little harsh, and it should be kind of, thought about a little bit further than that. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Medici. And I don't know if it makes a difference whether you're attached multifamily residential or single family, because when I lived on half an acre, my neighbors had a bird that screamed that I will tell you irritated me all day and all night. And we heard everything on a half an acre. So just had to make that comment because it's, anyway. Do we have any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Sorry. I just wanted to correct possibly a misstatement. Multifamily is not a permissive use even with the CUP in neighborhood commercial. It is only in general commercial. So I just wanted to make sure for the record that it is only general commercial and conditional use permit, regardless of opinion. It says permissive with conditional use permit. So yes, it is a permissive use. Conditional use permits are to address any potential hazards, effects, life, health, life, safety, quality of life, those kind of issues. More circumstantial based on geographical location. That's why we have certain uses that are permissive under conditional use permits. So those types of concerns can be addressed because they're not always a one-size-fits-all situation. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner.
And just one thing I've kind of noticed on the dispensaries, and it's not something I partake in. I've gone for presents for my mom or for friends. I can't stand the smell, but they have more security there than any liquor store, bar, gun store that I've ever been to. So as for kids being around it, I'm not too worried about that because they are incredibly strong on their surveillance and their security. So that's just kind of an argument I don't see.
Commissioner Carbone.
Yes, I want to clarify, because it sounds like everybody's picking on this poor old little facilities. I just made the comment to let people know there is a dispensary there, okay? Not that the dispensary is the bad guy to this whole story, that there is a dispensary there. But I didn't get an answer on one item. What is actually the rent or price for these places? Do you have something roundabout?
From what I understand, they are renting for about $1,200 a piece, $1,200 for that size townhomes.
1,000 square foot?
Yes, $1,200. That's it, neighborhood, plus or minus.
Okay, and that's just for rent, or is that lease?
That's for the rent.
Okay, what about a lease?
For lease probably would be something similar.
If somebody wanted to buy one of those units, since they're townhouses.
For buying, I think they are sold for somewhere, about, I can't give you the precise figure, but
something close.
200, 220, something like that.
Thanks.
It's within an affordable range for basically everybody.
Just like to have people understand what those ranges are that they'll be, kind of have to pay.
Yes, but the nature of multifamily is different from a single family,
Sure.
And there's going to be more buildable area compared to than a single family, And there's also different regulations for each. And in many municipalities, the multi-families are considered commercial.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you.
oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
I would just like to add, I saw an ad today for 232 square feet, 900 a month, with a 6-month lease, which I thought was absurd.
I'm sorry, how much square feet?
232 square foot studio.
Oh, that's,
Pump house?
Studio, apartment.
that's my walk-in
$900.
closet. I was trying to get some extra income.
Wow.
Put a half a moon on it, we call it something else.
Yes.
Yeah, so, understood.
I have a quick question for staff. When it comes to impact fees, let's say an acre with a single family residence on it, just pay, are those impact fees anything close to the per unit impact fees a multifamily would on the same acre? Does that make sense how I'm phrasing that?
Yeah, it does. Give me just a second, I'll pull it up.
Or is it like 24 times the amount?
Based on lot size, there's a
No.
set impact fee, and Commissioner Wagner, you look like, or I'm Director Wagner, you look like you were ready to say something, so I'll let you take
Well, I
that.
can't say the exact fee.
I don't need exact, just
but
roughly.
A single-family residence runs roughly around $4,000 per unit, but the $1,600 impact fee per unit the only thing that really changes is the roads.
Okay.
But the one thing I want to remind everybody on impact fees, that's not the applicant's issue. That's a Nye County issue.
That is a code
They haven't
issue.
changed it, they haven't updated it ever since it was adopted, and they're way off from where they
I
should be.
understand.
So,
I was just wondering.
just saying,
He's just asking.
I was just asking. Don't yell at me, Brett.
no, I know, I'm just saying it's came up a couple of times, and I just want to say that, you know, the impact fees are set by code. They are what any applicant's gonna pay today.
Correct.
And it shouldn't be used as a determination on whether or not a project is a feasible project or not, just because of that fact. So I just wanted to remind.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Wagner. Any other comments?
2006.
Just one quick comment. At the 1,000 feet plus the outdoor deck or patio, that is larger than my first single-family residence that I had in Las Vegas.
All right, if there's no further comments, commissioners, or discussion, then I will entertain a motion.
I would love to entertain a motion. Put one out there for you. I'm going to move to recommend approval of CU 235 based on the findings as outlined within staff report and subjects to conditions stipulated in this report.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, motion to approve and a second. I will call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Turner.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That passes. Then moving on to item number 8 for possible action, ETSU 23-6, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on a request for an extension of time for CU 22-30 to allow an animal rescue on property located at 3091 North David Street, APN 027-381-67. Never Forgotten Animal Society property owner, Pat Lemming is the applicant. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the Board of County Commissioners or is otherwise announced. Staff,
Madam Chair, before
Yes, sir.
staff, I have a disclosure.
go right ahead.
I've been working with Pat to try and help her get through this rigorous thing here. It's hard, but I've taken no money for that. No matter what I do, I don't get anything for it except more work. So I will be staying here, discussing this, and I will vote on it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Koenig. Okay, staff.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. The application before you this evening is a request for an extension of time to September 30th, 2023 for CU 2230 to allow for the operation of a nonprofit animal rescue, including intake, adoption, and welfare of animals placed in their care on a parcel totaling 1.1 acres. The conditional use permit was approved by the RPC at the October 12th, 2022 meeting. The property owner was unable to meet the conditions of obtaining commercial water rights, a commercial OSDS, manufactured housing division approval to renovate the single-wide mobile home and obtain an approved Category 2 site development within the original 6-month period. She is requesting the extension in order to work with the various departments for approval. If approved, the new deadline would be September 30th, 2023, to obtain an approved site development plan and complete the requirements for commercial water rights, commercial OSDS, and manufactured home approval. The specific items that they're asking for extension are item from the final action memo, item 2A, item 2B, and 2C. 2A is obtain an approved Category 2 site development plan. 2B, obtain all required building permits, tenant improvement approvals, license from the state and county to include manufactured housing to use the existing single-wide mobile home. And 2C, obtain adequate water rights for the proposed commercial use and commercial OSDS system. Ms. Lemming began the application for a business license review in October of 22 after the approval of the CUP. After several months of correspondence within the application portal between the building department and Ms. Lemming, a floor plan showing all exits, fire extinguishers, and fire alarms was complete, and the application was approved on March 27th, 2023. Staff at the town of Pahrump verified that the business license was updated to the new address on March 29th. The required 6-month compliance report was requested on March 13th through the application portal and was uploaded to the portal over this weekend. That deadline was April 13th. So the kennel permit was also submitted to Nye County Animal Shelter for review and approval on March 27th. I'm not sure if that has been approved or reviewed as of today. The temporary use permit for the Watchman's Quarters was approved November 3rd, 2022, and is valid until November 3rd, 2023. Ms. Lemming did state to me at the planning counter on March 29th that the animal rescue was gifted 4 acre-feet of water rights, and they are in the process of transferring them to the parcel. She did contact the Nevada Division of Manufactured Housing and was advised that the single wide would have to be taken back to the original state for it to be inspected by their department. I did provide the name and contact number for a supervisor at Manufactured Housing to verify that that is correct. We did have an email string, and that is correct. Even though manufactured homes are converted to real property, they are still under the direction of manufactured housing. So the Category 2 site development plan cannot be submitted until the water rights and commercial OSDS system requirements have been met. The OSDS system, on-site disposal system, is a state requirement, and the RPC is unable to remove that condition from the CUP. The Nevada Department of Environmental Protection has deemed the town of Pahrump a nitrogen management area, and advanced wastewater treatment denitrifying systems are required for commercial development. While the animals themselves will not use the facilities, there is a concern of the wastewater created from cleaning and sanitizing the runs. And Ms. Lemming will need to contact NDEP to discuss that request. The Category 2 site development requirements will include parking, landscaping, signage, and screening, and the requirements will be reviewed by the Technical Review Committee that's comprised of the Planning Department, Public Works Department, Fire Department, and the Building Department. At the October 12th RPC meeting, when the CUP was approved, the subject of limits on the number of animals was briefly discussed. After review of the current application, staff would like to revisit that discussion and add as a special condition of approval a limit of animals permitted on the premises and that number would be up to the RPC to come up with. We also do have a few questions for staff, or for the applicant, regarding the number of animals that currently reside on the property, how many animals are present at the property on a day-to-day basis, and how many animals are currently being fostered in the Pahrump Valley. Staff does recommend approval of the extension of time to allow for conversations to occur at the state level. So that's all I have, and the applicant is in the audience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Medici. Do we have any questions for staff? None at this time?
I have one.
Go right ahead.
Just out of curiosity, we've done a couple of dog things before. This is the first time I heard of one about the nitrogen issue. Why is it just coming up this time? Is it amount of animals, or is it something that slipped through the cracks?
This is basically, it's a commercial development, and that is what is required by the state. So the other ones where we've had the kennels and things like that, they've been on a residential, like in the backyard, or somebody's doing that kind of a thing. But as far as this parcel, that is what was required, and we can't, as far as the county goes, we can't waive that requirement.
I understand that. It just seems
Yeah.
like there's
That is something
other
we should
issues. And
definitely look
I
at.
know there's ways of eliminating that. I don't know if it's worth the county to look at for these things to make, it sounds like it's just one more hurdle for this applicant, and there are going to be other ones out there, I'm sure, but maybe there's some way we can find a way to say, here, you got these three options, that is approved by the state or whatever. You know, it stays in, I know it's a grind talking to any government facility, and you get to the state or whatever else, it's horrible. So maybe we could, on our end, make it a little bit easier and more options for them to look at. And hopefully it works out.
Thank
A lot of different things, not just this item, so.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That is something we can look into. Thank you.
The problem with that whole thing is, it's easy to say commercial OSDS until you reach in your pocket and start pulling out $1,000 bills and piling them up and up and up, because it can get very, very, very pricey. I mean,
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
So, yeah, that requirement comes from NDEP.
Yep.
And just so you know, I've been in this chair now for a little over 5 years. And I have been trying to finish that conversation with NDEP ever since then. The problem is they did designate the whole entire valley a high nitrate area. And any commercial use, whether it's even just an office building for one person in the building and one toilet and one sink, requires a nitrate recovery system. And it definitely isn't anything that the county has any authority at all to, because we do have an MOU with the NDEP to issue those permits and do those inspections, but we're doing them on behalf of the state, so we have to follow their rules. But, you know, even as recent as just a month and a half ago, when this issue came up, I reached out again to NDEP and said, can we please continue this conversation? Because I've met with them 3 times, I've shown them maps of where actual, because we do that testing in wells, we have the data, we can show exactly where high nitrate areas are and where they aren't. You know, and there's 3 in this valley. One of them's the old dairy, one of them is the golf course that I live on, the Lakeview Golf Course, and the third one is way to the south where the old sod farm used to be. No other place is there a high nitrate issue. And I've provided that information to NDEP, but COVID hit and I have never ever been able to continue that conversation. But still trying, because I agree with you guys that it's ridiculous that, you know, a mom and pop type shop is, you know, with, I mean, I get concerns, but there's other ways to address possibly other types of waste going down a sewer, you know, into a septic system. But yeah, I mean, they come with about a $90,000 to $100,000 price tag in it.
it's gonna be my recommendation to her to get a hold of NDEP and see if.
And that is
if we can-
exactly the
if we can
advice
get
I
on
give
that.
anybody.
Right.
Go to NDEP, have the conversation with them, get a letter from them to where they will, because
Get a
they can
waiver from-
provide you the waiver.
So,
And if you provide us the waiver, we no longer are gonna require it.
Correct.
So,
Any other questions for staff or discussion for
we're-
staff?
At this point in time, you know, I've had this conversation with the director. I'm thinking that maybe we can get somebody to generate a letter to go to NDEP and see if we can push the issue, because I know that you need some backing to make that happen, so go from there.
Wonderful. So then on your reports, you'll keep us updated.
I will keep you as closely updated as I want to, as I can.
Yeah, right.
we'll say there was a letter sent to NDEP, and then we'll play a recording of crickets.
Right, right. Yes, exactly. Okay. While the applicant comes down, we have one more question for staff.
Ms. Medici, you mentioned about putting a limit on the dogs. Do you have a recommendation for that?
During discussion, I believe the limit was 50.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Aye.
Please tell us about your application, and please state your name and spell your last name for the record as well.
Sure, my name is Pat Lemming, Lem as in Mary, ING. I'm the Executive Director of Never Forgotten Animal Society, and with me is Molly Clark, Clark. She is our president, and we are here today to try and answer any questions you have regarding our application. We have had, in regards to the water, a family in the valley has stepped forward. Excuse me if I get emotional here. They have donated 4 acre-feet of water to our organization, and they're paying all of the costs of transferring all title, doing the engineer's report, setting up for the installation of the meter. Just an incredible gift. That's why I get emotional. It's just unbelievable to me that someone would be this kind to help us out. So that is in the process right now. The company that's handling it is RCI, I believe, that is handling all of the paperwork on this. And I just got verification today from them that this is in the process. And so that will be forthcoming during this extension period. As far as the animals, the animal count on the property, this is new to me, about what was proposed today, about a limit of 50 animals on the property. We had discussed it prior at the RCP meeting, and I had brought up at that time, it's very difficult to be able to limit the number of animals you have on site because of the circumstances that you are confronted with almost on a daily basis. For instance, we had animal control come to us in one instance and say that there was a gentleman that had 60 dogs that he was hoarding and that they would like us to take them. And the owner was willing to surrender them in exchange for not being charged with animal cruelty and abuse. We agreed to do that. If you limit the number of animals that I can take at any one given moment, I would have had to have selected which animals I was going to be able to take and which ones I was going to have to not take. And therefore, the number of animals that we actually ended up taking when we got out on site was over 100. So had I been under the limits of saying that, I can only take so many, I don't know how I could have made that decision. Because of those animals that we had 16 litters of puppies, just here, there, and everywhere, at various ages, some being born as we were on site. So what do? Do I walk away and say, well, I'll take all the animals except for the moms that are giving babies, and then don't we start this process all over again? One of the things that we do is that we make sure that every animal that we adopt out is spayed or neutered so that we can shut this down. When we started this, our whole purpose was to work our way out of a job so that a place like what we have would no longer have to exist if people got responsible in spaying and neutering their animals, so that we would not have to deal with how many animals I'm going to have to take or not take or turn away. I'm turning away now 15 to 20 animals per week, animals I cannot take because I do not have the space, I don't have the volunteers, I don't have the resources. So by limiting the number of animals that I can take at any given time is going to really limit what I'm going to be able to do. We've been able to rehome over 3,000 animals in just the 4 years that we've been in business. All spayed and neutered. And I just don't see how you can limit the number of animals on site. I guess what I'm asking is that you would have to have enough faith in me to understand that I have to look at my resources. I'm not going to bring animals on site that I can no longer take care of. I have to be able to feed, water, medicate. I have to be able to have volunteers there to clean, sanitize, and all of that. I cannot take animals that I cannot take care of. And I would like to have the wherewithal to be able to make those decisions based upon the circumstances as they're presented. So in that particular instance, I'm sure that the county and I are going to sit down and have a talk about what this is and what it's going to entail. To give you an idea, at any given moment, my lowest inventory has been 175 animals. My largest inventory has been over 300. Now, are they on site? Oh, heck no. I don't like cleaning up that much poop. So they're not going to be on site, okay? They're going to be fostered out. We're going to try and find another alternative to having them on site because I can't take care of them on site in those numbers. So as an animal, we have what's called a foster to adopt program, which means that if an animal is not old enough to be spayed or neutered, then we let the family come in, pick the animal, take it home, but they do not own it. They foster it until we can get it spayed or neutered, at which point then it converts over to an actual adoption contract. So how is that going to be accounted for? It's not on site. I'm not taking care of it. I don't have to medicate it. I don't have to feed it. I don't have to do any of the vet checks or anything on it. So how am I going to report that? Is it going to be based upon when it's in shelter? Is that going to be part of my count then? And then once it goes out to foster, is that going to be then off-site and I don't have to account for it? What if it comes back? Then what do I do? It's going to really, really impact how we are able to do what we do. So I guess that's going to be up between me and the county to talk about, but I really would like to have the wherewithal to be able to make those decisions on an individual basis.
Ms. Fleming, a couple of questions, Chair, if I can.
Go right ahead.
And I think when the question was how many are going to be in that building at once.
I understand.
I don't think it has anything to do with how many are being fostered, which is a good thing. But if you're having this situation, are you working with the county shelter at all to help with some of these animals if you can't take some of them? I'm kind of concerned that I heard that the animal control came over and says, can you take these animals? The first place they're supposed to go to is actually the shelter. Now,
I understand.
I'm hoping I'm not hearing that the shelter has turned something away because it's going to be a problematic issue with me.
No, that was not the case. In this particular case, they were going to have to, at some point, turn this over into an abuse case.
Correct.
And it was just as a courtesy that I made us available so that maybe that was not going to be necessary.
But I do have an issue with that, but that's okay. That's something I'll discuss with,
Well, that was under the prior sheriff's department, so it's no longer something that we even have to consider.
Because it should have never happened that way, but it's okay. Because when you have a hoarding issue and it's noted as a hoarding issue, it needs to be taken care of properly. But again, I appreciate you did take the animals and you took care of them. That's a good thing. I appreciate that. But again, I'm not too sure when we're talking about how many animals in the building. I know that you have a foster program, and I know that it's working pretty well. But I think they're just talking about how many animals at one time is in the building. Is it 50 or 100?
Well, we just had our...
I don't think you can put 100 in that building.
Oh, there's no way in the world I'd do that in the first place.
Because there is no room for it. Because I know the size of that building. I've been in it 100 times.
Yeah.
And the person who owned it was using it before. So.
Yes. Currently, we just had our kennel inspection by animal control.
Correct.
And we had 32 dogs and 27 cats.
Which are easy to put a place for them.
And we can maintain that, and that's not unusual for us. Well, we're getting into kitten season.
So I think they're talking about how many slots do you have in the building to put animals into. So
It varies.
if you have 50 slots, that's what they're talking about.
I understand that, but it varies. It depends upon the demand.
It would be a maximum in the building at one time. I think that's the question that's being asked. Trying to figure out how to help you with this.
I understand, and I understand, and I really do appreciate your efforts, but you're trying to box me into a corner. I just had Armagosa call me. They found 6 litters of kittens with, just say, an average of 6 kittens per litter. I bring those in.
Naomi wouldn't take any of those. Okay, that'll be discussed.
That I don't know.
But again, we'll have that discussion later. But again, we have to have something, from what I'm hearing here, at least has a count. If we use a number of 50, and if that doesn't work out, we'll have you back here and we'll talk about it again.
That's fair, as long as it's a moving target, because I don't know.
Is that acceptable?
Well, I think what the building's only the size of the building.
1,900 square feet.
It can only accommodate a certain amount of animals. Your staff can only take care of a certain amount of animals. And that's where the concern is. No reflection on you. We've got some bad lessons learned that we're allowed to go way too far.
I understand.
And that's what we're trying to address. Now, I think there could be a provision for a one-off type situation, for a temporary, reason, if it was an emergency type circumstance, to where things could be accommodated. But what we're looking for is a number of average animals that are day-to-day on the property. Where's that number at? What can you accommodate comfortably, and what are you designed to accommodate, not under an emergency situation?
Okay, so now we're changing it from the building itself to the entire property. Is that correct?
Well, you had stated when you got this CUP that all the animals would be housed inside.
They are, but
animals that would be outside were for exercise and that type of stuff.
We have 2 buildings.
Yeah, we are talking about the building.
Okay.
How many animals can the building today, as set up today, accommodate?
Okay, I would say we have 2 buildings. Okay?
No,
we have the warehouse.
You have one that's got a C of O and able to use. The other one's a manufactured home, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so we're
at
talking
this
about
point, it's not licensed to be used for anything other than possibly storage, because it doesn't meet state manufacturing.
Okay. Then and under those conditions, I'd say 50 would be reasonable.
And again, that's understanding. Everybody understands that there's going to be a situation where you might have an extra 20 animals or 30 animals on property.
Mm-hmm.
But provided, that's a temporary thing and you're trying to make accommodations, find them foster homes or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. And that is
that's what we're looking for.
That is our mandate anyway. We don't want them on site.
Right.
We really don't. Yeah. So that is our mandate, is to try and get them out to foster or get them adopted if we possibly can. So.
Understood.
Okay.
So one thing that might help the conversation, or at least help us to understand, that instance where you took the 60 dogs, how long were they on property? Like, how you brought them in, roughly how long did they stay before they went out to foster?
We immediately started, once we got them vaccinated, got the vet checked and everything, it was within days that we started processing them out.
And I think that's an important distinction to make with your organization. This is not a kennel operation where they come in and they're there. It's not a sanctuary. It's not something like that. They come in, they get evaluated, they get treated, vaccinated, spayed and neutered, they get fed, they evaluated for healthy, and then they're out to be adopted.
Exactly.
They're not a shelter, and that's the problem.
Correct. They're not a shelter, and
that's the reason why we're trying to help her out with
absolutely
what the determination is. So
absolutely, I wanted to make that distinction between what she's doing and what we've seen in the past to make sure that we understand this is a revolving situation.
Our normal turnaround
Wait a
time.
minute, Pat. Can we say something like, we've never really done it before, but no more than 50 for X number of days in a row?
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
If all of a sudden she takes 60, they're going to be gone in 3 days. So if I say you can't have more than 50 for more than 5 days in a row, because they're going to come in and they're going to go out.
Yeah, I mean, it could be structured, I think, however you guys desire. But the other thing, I mean, I'm with the commissioner on this one. Taxpayers just spent a lot of money building a shelter that can accommodate a lot of animals. And I by no means would want you to turn somebody away out of the concern for the animal. But I think it's also important to know that you can surrender animals to the animal shelter just like any other person could. So if you guys were to take possession of 60 dogs or cats or whatever the case may be, you know, I think it's important to use that resource up there, you know, just as well as your foster program and everything else. So that's what it was built for. So.
I understand. And we're willing to work with the shelter in any capacity that we can.
Oh, yeah, I know you are.
You know Natasha already, so.
Yes,
so
we have a good working
I'm sure
relationship.
you guys have been working together, so.
We have.
Do we have any other
Yes.
questions for the applicant?
I'm sorry. Okay.
I was just wondering.
We need you to state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Molly Clark, C-L-A-R-K.
Thank you.
Excuse me. You know, we're new in this building, and we've got stuff going on in all of these different directions. And one of our goals is to put into place some really good kennels for these dogs to be housed on the interior spaces. And there is obviously more room down the road to accommodate dogs in the in-house in the building once we are allowed to put cats into the manufactured house. So this is going to have to evolve as we're you know, getting the correct permits and working with the correct people. So the number might be a number today, but our goal would be, we might want to discuss that as a board and what our goal would be in terms of in-house housing of dogs. Make sense? Because right now everybody's in the building, but cats will not be in the building. Okay.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, you know, these conditions are conditions for today.
Right.
Okay. If you guys wish to expand in the future, build another building, put another commercial coach, whatever the case may be, so you guys could have more housing area for animals, I mean, that would just be a change of a condition later.
Okay.
So it's definitely not a can never change situation. So just to address today.
Okay. If I can address the manufactured home issue. When we agreed to the conditional use permit, I didn't realize I was changing my name to Alice in Wonderland and going down the rabbit hole. This has been an incredible experience, and not for the better. We are confronted with several issues here as far as manufactured home is concerned. I have been told by the manufactured home division that if Nye County would take the unit into their inventory, I have no idea what that means, then the state backs off and we don't have to do anything with the state. So I had somebody at the manufactured home division call Nye County and ask them if they would take it into inventory, and they were told no, they wouldn't take it into inventory, so then I was thrown back at the state again. So I don't know what any of that means.
Judging by the looks I saw on all their faces over there, I don't think they know what that means either.
Well, that's the part that I find confusing, because Molly has taken the lead on this, and I'm going to let her take over here to discuss this. But the unit was installed on a large parcel, and it had an address on Bella Vista. All right. Subsequent to that, they went ahead and did a lot division on it, which then meant that the unit did not move. The trailer's still where it was set up, where it was licensed, where it was inspected, and everything is still there. But the address moved to David Street. The state does not recognize that move. So they're telling me that it's an illegal unit, moved onto the property illegally, has not been inspected, and therefore, this is where I get the Queen of Hearts. They want me to haul it off. And that's the solution they've come up with. I'm going to turn it over to Molly, because she's the only one that has the patience to work with this, so.
I think it's a very interesting story, and my sympathies go out to the Nye County Assessor's Department every day because of these kinds of things happening. But I think some of the confusion at the state level was, and I'm speculating here, we presented them with an application for a single wide on a property that they had no record of. So they were accusing us of illegally moving the single wide to this property. And like all good homeowners, we jumped in there and we ripped out carpet and we threw paint on the walls and we had a leak in the roof fixed, and then we was like, wait a minute, we're not allowed to do that. So the confusion came out with where is this single wide documented? So the assessor's office did a lot of digging. We provided Ms. Medici the paperwork. I'm hoping that you shared that with everybody, okay? And sent that off to Mr. Holmes at Nevada Manufactured Housing. And his comment to us was, as we move forward with any renovations, all permits and renovations must be done through Nevada Manufactured Housing Division, so which we're happy to do. Might have to do a little workaround on the windows, I'm not sure. But I think we can just go forward with this, anything, and get the inspection done now that we've cleared up. That's my hope, okay. So, all right, fingers crossed.
That's another reason why we need the extension.
Yes, that's.
All this stuff is, dealing with the state is worse than dealing with the county.
Yes.
By a factor of a lot, believe me.
Well, I was told that I have to get the original plans from the manufacturer. Now remember, this was built in 1979. I have to go back to the manufacturer, get the original plans from the manufacturer. Then I have to get a contractor to come in to refurbish the unit back to what its original specifications were. Then once that is done, then I can call for an inspection, at which point they will come out and inspect it and see if they're going to put the tags back on it. So that's kind of where it's at right now, and that's why we needed the extension, was because we were running up against this nonsense. And I kept thinking, well, I'll meet a logical, common sense person in this process. That has not happened yet. So we're still trying. So I really do appreciate your patience in working with us on this, because we really are trying to get this done. It's in our best interest to get it done as quickly as possible, and that is our goal. But unfortunately, that has not been what we've been up against.
So I guess my question then is this 6 months extension to September 30th, is that enough time?
Working with the state, who the heck knows? I really don't know, but it is my anticipation that it will be, simply because we are jumping every hurdle. We're dotting every I, and we're crossing every T. So with any luck, the state will see that we are diligently trying to meet their requirements.
My guess is no.
Oh.
Answer your question.
Well, that was, understanding that you're working with the state and there's water rights and Division of Manufactured Housing. We're at 5.5 months now, so I don't know if do we need to consider a little bit longer, or do we come back for a second?
I will tell you, I had heard from one of the well drillers in town that changing point of diversion for water rights right now is taking anywhere from 4 to 6 months.
There are, and I will tell you, there are several assembly bills in the legislature right now that are talking about dealing with points of diversion and changing points of diversion.
Yeah.
When I put in the application for the extension, I was told at that time that it would take 5 months. So I'm doing my calculations, and I'm going, I said that we're going to slide in just at the very end, but I'm hoping that we can come back to the board if we do come up against any of these other problems.
Well, so that's, I guess,
I would just up it a little bit.
well, that was kind of my question, because I don't want to,
I like December.
that was maybe 9 months?
I like December.
December? December's nice and easy.
December 31st? Is that what we're looking at?
Maybe, we can work on that. We don't need comments from the audience right now, thank you. Your mic's not on. Good.
Well, I would say 9 only because if we have to recircle back for this whole discussion of if staff wants us to put a limit on the dogs, we'll just forgo that situation tonight and then give her 9 months. And if she doesn't, then she's going to be back in here anyway.
No, I would still recommend the limitation on the dogs, because you're still approving the extension.
Yeah.
And today would be the day to amend any conditions, just like you would be amending the condition that they have a certain amount of time to get through the site development process.
The only reason why I say she seems a little stressed out by having to put a number on the dog situation anyway. I just didn't want to have to add to her plate.
You
when we
haven't
go home.
lived through trying
I
to
know.
clean a situation up, and this has
Oh,
nothing to do with the applicant.
I see him yelling too. I hear him. Don't think I don't hear him. I just kind of want to make it a little less stressful on her, but that's fine.
I do have a couple questions on the dog limitations, if I may.
Sure, yes.
Is this going to be something that I have to report on daily, monthly, weekly, annually, semi-annually? Is there going to be an inspection? Is somebody going to come through? Is animal control going to be in charge of this? Do you see my questions?
Well, I mean, it's not anything you're gonna have to be reporting on, but per your Title VI permit, animal control, code compliance, anybody can come on your property anytime,
Agreed.
and,
Agreed. I just didn't know if you wanted any kind of formal reporting.
No.
Okay.
Well, there is a 6-month status report, so that might be a good point,
Yeah, that's not a problem. I just needed to know what I was going to be up against.
Right.
All right, do we have any further questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none at this time, then I'll open public comment. If there's any member of the public that wishes to speak, come on up. State your name, spell your last name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Tim Bohannon, Bohannon. One of the things that I was listening to as far as limitations, I like the idea of having limitations, I agree, is if you have a new birth, you're going to have additional animals on site. Having a time constraint or a time waiver, if you will, for weanlings to be able to get them weaned and proper timing from that standpoint is often a common thing in ordinances to provide for the young, and that way they don't have to be separated and you have issues that are caused that way. You also have to watch it because if you have 7 or 8 dogs are in labor, all of a sudden you've got quite a few animals around. So you do have to watch that. But that's definitely something in nature to keep in mind as you're working this out and working any provisions on the limitations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bohannon. Do we have any other public comment?
I have a public comment on the phone. Amy, go ahead and speak or spell and state your name for the record.
Yes, Amy Nelson, Nelson. I don't know how it is out here. I've been out here for decades, but when I did animal rescue and fostering in Clark County, they didn't include puppies. There's a lot of puppies that don't live 6 weeks. So if a female has puppies, they weren't included in the count until they were 6 weeks. And maybe that might be a solution for all the stress and tension for puppies and kittens, especially certain times of the year when animals are brought in. They're not that healthy, and seriously, the puppies may not make it. They could be counted in when they're born, but a week later they're gone. And I don't know if that should be part of the stipulation on how many animals are going to be on site. And that's my opinion. And another thing too, the shelter, like the director mentioned, the shelter is always available to help out. I don't know how the rumors got started about it being a kill shelter, but it's not. And if there's ever anything that puts them over and going to endanger the animal society going out of business, Never Forgotten Animal Society, they can always surrender a couple of them to the shelter, the larger ones or the older ones, and that might be a solution. But I think they might look at not including puppies and kittens under 6 weeks old. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Public comment?
Hello, Laura Larson, Larscn. I just want to thank the board regarding the fact of giving her an extension. I've dealt with Pat before. My sister had a bully at home that actually sat there and had pneumonia. I called Pat immediately. My sister lives in Vegas. She ended up sitting there calling Pat, and Pat helped her regarding the fact that we can't lose her in here. We can't lose her. We got to do whatever we can. Okay? Thank you so much, guys. You guys have a blessed evening.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. All right, any further public comment? Okay. Having none on the phone and no further comment in the chamber, we'll close public comment. I did have one, I think we definitely need to settle on the number of dogs, and if I heard correctly, I think you were okay at 50, not more than 50 for 5 consecutive days?
That was going to be my question. What is what do we want that number to be? I'm good with 50, but for how many days? I've gone from 5 to 20, so.
If it works for them, maybe split the difference at 10.
Got it.
Yeah. And
I'm
50
ready to
dogs
make a
over
motion
the age of
whenever
6
you're ready.
weeks? Is that something?
50 dogs over the age of 6 weeks? For not more than 10 consecutive days?
Over.
Or
I don't, this would be a you question.
What- yeah,
I don't know if.
What
I think
age are you
what
spaying
Ms.
and neutering
Nelson
them?
was saying is that there's odds are better if they survive after 6 weeks, but I don't know that at 6 weeks they're necessarily at the point they could be weaned from their mother.
Sure, no, I
So,
totally get that.
I mean, we might want to consider that.
How soon are you
Maybe
spaying
like
and
9
neutering them?
weeks, I think, possibly. But
How soon are you spaying and neutering them?
We spay at 5 months for dogs. And then we spay and neuter cats when they're 3 pounds.
So Pat, if
But remember, excuse me.
If I say you're going to limit the number of dogs in the building to 50 for no more than 10 days. You can't have over 50 for more than 10 days. Is that acceptable?
It's going to be a challenge. Because just trying to get a vet to do a vet check or a vet assessment or health assessment, we're down to 4 vets here in town.
15 days. I'm looking for you.
I would appreciate 15 to 20 days, 20 being the maximum, because then I can make sure that if they have health issues, like we just got hit with parvo. Okay, so I mean that takes time. That's 14 days right there from the onset until they either pass away or they can survive.
Yep.
All right, so that's 14 days right there if I have an onset.
Got it.
So that's my biggest issue is the health issue. If I get hit with something, we got hit with the perfect trifecta. We got parvo, giardia, and coccidia all at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
So we had to shut down for 14 days. So I don't know how to address that because that was not something that we expected. It was not something that we could have prevented. It's not something that we could have planned for. It is something that happened. And so those are the kind of issues I hope that you take into consideration, that this is stuff that we don't have control over.
Right. And that's not what we're going for. I mean, this is,
We're looking at daily,
I mean, we,
Day-to-day average.
right.
yeah, day-to-day average. I mean, we understand there's going to be births that are going to come in. There's going to be emergency situations. We just don't want that to springboard into 400 dogs into, you know, we don't want that. So we need to give a little bit of just a guideline to work within.
I agree, because I don't want them either.
I know, yeah, right.
Yeah, because as I said, I don't want to be cleaning up that much poop. So I happen to agree with that, but I just hope that you keep in mind that there are circumstances in which we have no control, and that the health and welfare of the animals always come first.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
But if you're in a condition where where you can't go anywhere because you got to stay for 14 days, that means you're not bringing any more animals into the shelter, right? Or into your unit.
That's why we had to shut down for 14 days.
So in that case here, you're
And
not
it just
bringing any
stays
more animals in. So
static.
I think it works out for what she's asking.
I think so. Yeah. So before you step away, my last question is, you're amenable to that condition? Have you read and do you understand and do you agree to the remainder of the conditions that are in the staff report with this extension of time?
As far as the number of animals?
That in addition to the rest of the conditions listed in the staff report.
Well, I'd like to leave it open so that we can come back once we have the build out on the property and we get all of our various permits and everything, that we have the site plan review and all of that kind of stuff where we do our remodels and stuff, if that comes about, that we can change that number as far as the number of animals. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just asking the other condition, there are additional conditions of approval besides the number of dogs that we're adding. Have you read those? Do you understand and do you agree to those?
I do.
Okay, all right. That's just what I wanted to make sure.
If I can make a comment, I would like to compliment you on the staff. Never having been through this process before, and like I said, I was like a deer in the headlights kind of a thing here. Your staff has been exceedingly helpful and has gone out of their way, I think, to be as amenable and as helpful as they can under the circumstances that we're being faced with. So I would like to compliment you on the staff.
I'd like to double down on that too, because Kiana's been great.
Yeah.
Now I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
You ready?
Fire when ready.
I move to approve ETSU-23-6 based upon the findings as outlined within the staff report and subject to the conditions stipulated in this report, adding a condition limiting the number of dogs in the building to 50 or no more than 20 days.
And are you also adjusting the deadline to December 31st?
Oh, yes, sorry.
2023.
The new deadline will be December 31st, 2023.
I second.
We have a motion and a second.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
can you say existing building? So we know that it's the building that's there? Because when she adds more, it's going to be different.
I'll modify my motion to specifically say existing building. Thank you.
Okay.
I modify my second.
Fabulous. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And I will call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Blackstock.
Aye.
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 All right. And Ken. So there you go. There. All right. All right, then. That is approved. So we're going to move on to item number 9 for possible action, ETSU 23-3. Public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on a request for an extension of time for CU 2020-000100 to allow a multifamily residential fourplex on property zone Town Center TC located at 2560 East Ambush Street. Assessors parcel number 042-101-11. Ledgerwood Trust and J.C. Cornerstone are the property owners and applicant. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the Board of County Commissioners or is otherwise announced. Staff.
May I make an announcement of Ledgerwood?
Disclosure?
A disclosure, yeah, sorry. Ledgerwood is a client of my company's property management. We manage his properties. So I will be abstaining from the vote. However, I can, in the discussion, I don't think it'll sway my...
Participate.
participation, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you, Madam
staff.
Chair, and good evening. This is a request for an extension of time of 36 months on a previously approved CUP to allow multifamily fourplex with two-car garages at the address located on the staff report. It's currently in the town center zoning, which requires a conditional use permit to be developed. Upon review of the application, the staff finds sufficient justification to recommend approval of this extension of time. The applicant states that they're unable to meet with the previous time constraints due to the economy and is requesting it to be extended for 36 months due to interest rates for the building materials to come down. The parcel is an undeveloped parcel at the moment, located in the town center zoning. The applicant proposes to build a multifamily unit consisting of two duplex units. The master designation is HDR, and I'm sorry, my pages got mixed up. There it is. This extension of time will extend till October 12th of 2025. Again, this was a previously approved conditional use permit. Requiring that the site development be started and construction by April 12th, 2026. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant here? Wish to say anything? Okay, I guess there's no applicant. Then I will open up public comment. If there's any member of the public that wishes to speak, come on down, state your name, spell your last name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
I have no public comment on the phone.
Okay, having none on the phone and none in the chambers, I will close public comment. Do we have any discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, right on.
I like fourplexes in places where they belong. So I'll make a motion to approve ETSU-23-3 to extend the time for 36 months to obtain an approved site development plan and all required permits and licenses based upon the findings as outlined within the staff report and subject to the conditions stipulated in this report.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Motion to approve and a second. I'll call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Turner.
Abstain.
Oh, you're abstaining. I'm sorry. Then I was right. Tyler.
Aye.
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 That's approved. Then we'll move on to item number 10. For possible action, ETSU 23-4, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on a request for an extension of time for CU 2020-000099 to allow a multifamily residential fourplex on property zone Town Center TC located at 2480 East Ambush Street, assessor's parcel number 042-101-07, Ledgerwood Trust and J.C. Cornerstone, property owner and applicant. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the Board of County Commissioners or is otherwise announced. Staff.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. As the previous application, it mimics that one. They're requesting the same time limit to be extended for the same dates for just a different location on a different conditional use permit application that was previously approved by the board.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have the same disclosure.
Thank you. All right. Any comments from the applicant? Okay, I'll open up public comment. If there's any public comment, state your name, spell your last name for the record, 3-minute time limit.
I have no public comment on the phone.
Thank you. Having none on the phone and none in the chambers, we'll close public comment. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Go right ahead.
Move to approve ETSU-23-4 to extend the time for 36 months to obtain an approved site development plan and all required permits and licenses based upon the findings as outlined within the staff report and subject to the conditions stipulated in this report.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Motion to approve in a second. I'll call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Tyler.
Aye.
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 All right. How about we take, if everybody's okay with it, you want to take let's take a 5-minute comfort break.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back in 5 minutes.
I was just going to ask you, I was like, please, Mom, can we have one?
For a minor master plan amendment of approximate.
You might have to start that over, because when she unmuted it, you were already speaking.
Oh, okay. All right, sure, no problem. Item 11A for possible action, ZCMP 23-2, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on an application for a minor master plan amendment of approximately 2.17 acres from rural density residential RDR to rural development area RDA for property located at 3620 West Bella Vista Avenue, assessors parcel number 028-245-33. Top Notch Carrier LLC is the property owner. Valerie Martell is the applicant agent. The Pahrump Regional Planning Commission makes a recommendation on this item. Final action by the Board of County Commissioners is scheduled for April 18th, 2023, or as otherwise announced. 11B for possible action, ZCMP 23-3, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on an application for a zone change to change 2.17 acres from neighborhood commercial NC to commercial manufacturing CM for property located at 3620 West Bella Vista Avenue, assessors parcel number 028-245-33. Top Notch Carrier LLC is the property owner. Valerie Martell is the applicant agent. The Pahrump Regional Planning Commission makes a recommendation on this item. Final action by the Board of County Commissioners is scheduled for April 18th, 2023, or as otherwise announced. 11C for possible action, CU 23-1, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on an application for a conditional use permit to allow mixed-use developments for property located at 3620 West Bella Vista Avenue, assessors parcel number 028-245-33. Top Notch Carrier LLC is the property owner. Valerie Martell is the applicant agent. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the Board of County Commissioners or is otherwise announced. 11D for possible action, WV 23-1, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on an application for a waiver from 17.04.750 lighting of Nye County Code 1704.70 landscaping requirements, 17.04.760F. Point 1.B, screening walls and fences to allow 6-foot chain link fencing without opaque screening and to waive Nye County Code 15.28.100 unpaved parking and storage areas for property located at 3620 West Bella Vista Avenue, assessors parcel number 028-245-33. Top Notch Carrier LLC is the property owner. Valerie Martell is the applicant agent. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the Board of County Commissioners or is otherwise announced. Staff.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. The applicant is requesting a minor master plan amendment to change 2.17 acres from rural density residential to rural development area. A zone change from 2.17 acres from neighborhood commercial to commercial manufacturing, and a waiver from the development standards requiring landscaping, lighting, paving, and privacy screening. A conditional use permit to allow an outdoor storage yard on half of the parcel and for a towing storage yard on the other half. If the master plan amendment is approved, the requested zone change would then be conforming, and the requested uses would also be allowed with the approved waiver and conditional use permit. Upon review of the applications, the staff finds sufficient justification to recommend approval of the master plan amendment, the zone change, and conditional use permit, however, to deny the waiver application. At the minimum, if the board wishes to entertain the waiver portion of the application, we do suggest adding a restriction on a block wall or privacy screening abutting the residential the residential abutting properties. In addition, all areas that have abandoned inoperable vehicles should also be screened from view. In the staff report, you will find comments from Public Works, the fire department, and the sheriff's office. There is also justification letters from the applicant and our public notices that went out, including a conceptual site plan supplied from the applicant. If you have any questions, I am available.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. I do have one question, and maybe I just misunderstood, but so she's asking for a waiver of the requirement to have opaque fencing adjacent to the residentially zoned properties? Am I understanding that properly?
To not use privacy slats at all.
Okay.
I can refer back to her justification to make sure.
I got it. I'm good. Thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? Okay. Seeing none, then, is the applicant here? Is there anything that you would like to tell us about your applications? And please remember to state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Martel, M-A-R-T-E-L. I'm available for any questions, nothing really to add. For the screening, we did ask the waiver. All the properties behind, besides, they're all vacant. But if there's any screening requested, we thought after, I'm sorry, I'm going to do with the best of my English, poor English. Screenings could be okay, you know, we don't have any issues. We asked for the waiver just because everything else is vacant around, it's all desert. But we understand having a tow company on the property with parked vehicles or non-operational could be not messy, but, you know, screens could be a good idea, at least in the back. So because the only houses close to that property is a street down, there's 70 acres between our property and the residential homes that are in the back. 70 acres in between.
Thank you, Ms. Martel. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, then I will open public comment. If there's anyone that has comment that would like to speak on this item, come on down, state your name, spell your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
I have one on the phone. Amy, you're unmuted. You could speak and spell your name for the record.
Yes, Amy Nelson, Nelson. When I looked at this, I had to write everything down because they're requesting so many zone changes, rural development area to rural density or vice versa, and the neighborhood commercial to commercial manufacturing, and then the waivers for lighting, screening, walls, and fences to allow a 6-foot fence without the privacy stuff put in. And it's going to be a towing and storage. And also they want to waive unpaved parking. They want to have unpaved parking for this area. Now, I remember other people coming forward in the last few years at requesting, storage facilities, and they had to put in the paving. They didn't get a waiver. They weren't allowed to do it, and that includes one of our commissioners, Board of County Commissioners. And so I don't think that should be waived on this property for any reason. that, is an issue with people that store their items. It's a security issue without lighting. It's a safety issue without lighting and without the paved parking and paved drive area. I don't know. It seems to me like they're trying to subdivide something without subdividing it by asking for these changes. And I have a friend that tried to subdivide 10 acres and she couldn't do it. So I'm really confused on the intent here and how they're going to be using our county codes to get what they want. So I hope everybody, and I know you will, ask all the right questions, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Do we have any additional public comment?
I have none on the phone.
Okay, having none on the phone and no further comment in the chambers, we'll close public comment. Do we have any further discussion?
I just like to remind everybody that at the last meeting, we had something similar for on 160. Same issue with putting the wall in the back or against residential, and we turned him down. So there you go. We have a precedent recent.
Do we have any further discussion?
I have a question for the staff. Ms. Nelson brought up a question I guess I got to ask. I remember years ago, before I lived here permanently, about paving and storage areas and everything else. What is our ruling? Do we want it paved all the time? What would you prefer?
The code requirement is that it's paved. All drive aisles, anywhere where you have vehicles traveling, parking lots, driveways, drive aisles are required to be paved.
Okay, and that's what I thought. I wanted to make sure, because we went back and forth, and I personally agree with that 100%, because part of what we have here is issues of oil, everything seeping into our soil, because we are desert and it will go through. There's a way to capture that at someplace, the drainage, before it gets into our desert, into our aquifers, because they're talking stuff could be for years. So to me, there should be no issue on the paving part. I know it's a lot of paving. It's not cheap. Same thing with the fencing. If it's got to be opaque or a wall, that's what we want for people to go there in the future. So I'm with that part of it. So thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it.
I was just going to say any further discussion, so you're right on.
Question for staff. Which one's required by code, opaque or block? Or is it and or thing? I mean, is it or thing?
Well, in this case, they're allowed to have the chain link with the opaque, the slats.
Okay, that is a permissive.
Right, and
okay.
they're asking to not have the slats.
I was just wondering. Thank you.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
And I don't remember the code that clearly, but was there any alternate type pavement that could be used?
There, you can have asphalt paving or double layer chip sealed.
Which is considerably cheaper, correct?
It is less, yes.
Is the chip seal required a waiver on, or is that?
No, you can have, it's a double layer. I think it's like 3/8 inch each layer. So yeah, with over a compacted gravel base.
Any further discussion? Okay, was there anything else you wanted to say, Ms. Martell?
I had a question, well, a comment, just to be clear, the storage part, it's not vehicles, it's really like building materials and overflow of our two other commercial properties. The chain link is already there, but my question is, if we need to pave, do we have to pave the whole thing, even though one side will be only used for materials, not vehicles? Only the side that is used for parking some vehicles? A portion of it?
Do you want to take that?
The area of the storage, where, I mean, vehicles are gonna be going in and out, wouldn't they be? I mean, if that's the case, then that would have to be paved, if you're gonna have vehicles, unloading and loading,
I guess the problem I have with that is in the future, we don't know that they may not be storing stuff there, they may be driving vehicles in and out.
right,
You never know. What you intend to use it for today may not be what you intend to use it
Things
5 years
change
from now.
sometimes, yes.
And I'll just remind, I mean, that determination would be made through the site development process as to where the traffic areas would be versus just, open area, I guess, where building materials would be stored.
They could separate that by another fence that separates the two areas. That would be my thought process. But again, that's not me. I'm just throwing it out there.
Understood, thank you. Okay, any further discussion?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's take these one at a time, and I will entertain a motion on 11A.
Actually, Chair, if you read the recommended motion, I think it covers it quite nicely for the whole thing. And I'll make that motion if you'll agree with me.
Sure,
Okay.
I can do that.
Move to recommend approval to the BOCC of ZCMP-2302, ZCMP-2303, and approve CU 23-01 and deny WV-23-01 based upon the findings as outlined within the staff report and subject to the conditions stipulated in this report.
Hey,
I second.
we have a motion to approve and a second. I'll call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Blackstock.
Aye.
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 All right, and moving right along to item 12, A, B, and C. 12A, for possible action, ZCMP 23-4, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on an application for a zone change to change 10.43 acres from specific plan SP to neighborhood commercial NC for property located at 4779 East Mountain Falls Parkway, assessors parcel number 045-021-74. Mountain Falls LLC is the property owner, Tanny Engineering is the applicant agent. The Pahrump Regional Planning Commission makes a recommendation on this item. Final action by the Board of County Commissioners is scheduled for May 16th, 2023, or is otherwise announced. 12B, for possible action, CU 23-4, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on an application for a conditional use permit to allow RV storage located at 4779 East Mountain Falls Parkway, assessors parcel number 045-021-74. Mountain Falls LLC is the property owner, Tanny Engineering is the applicant agent. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the Board of County Commissioners or is otherwise announced. 12C, for possible action, WV 23-6, public hearing, discussion, and deliberation on an application for a waiver of development standards, Nye County Code 17.04.740, landscaping located at 4779 East Mountain Falls Parkway, assessors parcel number 045-021-74. Mountain Falls LLC is the property owner, Tanny Engineering is the applicant agent. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the Board of County Commissioners or is otherwise announced. Staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a request to rezone the subject property to the neighborhood commercial zoning district, and then a waiver from the landscaping requirements and a conditional use permit for an RV storage yard. And this is specifically for a 1.82 acre portion of the subject parcel. That's the area where the RV storage lot is already existing. There was a temporary use permit that was issued to allow this RV storage lot, but now they're basically going beyond what's temporary, and so that's why they're having to do the zone change and the conditional use permit. The staff is recommending approval of the zone change and the conditional use permit, but on the waiver, we don't support, we're not recommending that the waiver be approved as they've submitted it, which we believe they could do landscaping and they could meet the landscaping requirement. The one issue really is that they don't have water available, so they can't have the irrigation, the automatic irrigation for the for any landscaping, but they could do drought tolerant landscaping, which I believe the applicant is going to discuss in more detail, that they they would be willing to do some drought tolerant landscaping, but then just the only issue would be the not having the water available. But I believe the applicant is here to discuss in more detail what they would propose to do on the landscaping. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Osborne. Do we have any questions for staff?
I
Director
don't have
Waggoner.
a question. I just wanted to make one clarification. They have water available as far as like water rights. They just don't have the infrastructure to that portion yet.
Yeah.
So that's where the issue comes from.
Sure. Thank you for that clarification. Any questions for staff?
Yes. On the 10 acres, the 10.43, and the 1.8 something was going to be used for the RV storing?
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah, the whole.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, the entire parcel, it's a really kind of long, thin parcel, but the only that one piece that shows on their, if you look at their site plan, it shows where the RV park is, or even if you just look at the aerial photo,
right,
you can see where the paved portion where the RVs are stored. That's the piece that.
That's the 1.8 portion?
Yes.
But that whole long strip is 10 acres?
Right.
And the waiver for the landscaping is for the whole long strip?
No, everything is for the 1.8 acre piece.
Okay, so the waiver would just be for that 1.8 acres section, not the whole 10 acres?
Right, correct. That's
gotcha.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, if the applicant's here, if there's anything you'd like to tell us, if you could state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
Good evening, Steve Dush, DUSH, with Taylor Morrison Homes. So yes, thank you for your time. As your staff had indicated, what we're really requesting to do is, I wanted to just clarify that it's only the 1.8 acres that we're looking to rezone, not the entire area. It was a temporary use permit for the RV stores. There are currently 49 slots on there, and they're all being utilized. And so our objective is to, again, just keep the use as it is, not modify it, but for the landscape. After a brief conversation through emails earlier today, we had indicated that we would do the landscaping. We would not be able to meet the code requirement as it relates to the irrigation system because, as Brett had indicated, we don't have the infrastructure for the water. So what we would suggest is that we would do hand watering for 6 months to establish drought-tolerant plants and, put in landscaping in accordance with your staff recommended condition for the site development plan. And so with that, we concur with all of the recommendations of your staff and look for your support as well.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I have one.
Right ahead.
When do we plan to relocate the RVs to their permanent location?
So we're efforting that currently. We have identified a spot on the further west end of this property of our master plan. And so we're going through an assessment right now and looking for individuals who would like to operate that facility. Currently, our HOA is maintaining and operating this, and that's really not our core competency. So we've identified a parcel. We'll actually come back before this board, and then, of course, the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, we'll open public comment. If there's any member of the public that wishes to comment, come on down, state your name, spell your last name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Tim Bohannon, Bohannon. As a resident out in Mountain Falls, this is this location is really non-obtrusive, drought tolerant. Landscape would be nice to have, and the location's good. I like the idea of removing or moving it at some point to a permanent home, maybe with a little bit more space too. But yeah, we're in favor of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bohannon.
I have public comment on the phone.
Okay.
Amy, go ahead and speak and spell your name for the record.
Yes, Amy Nelson, Nelson. This Section A calls for 10.43 acres to be changed, not 1.8. So I think that might be a problem. They might reword that. And this is an HOA. I'm not quite sure why this is even before planning at this point. Shouldn't it go through their HOA in Mountain Falls? Would we be, stepping on toes or something? And if there's no water and they're going to be storing RVs, I have a friend that had an RV that was parked and it caught on fire. So what are they going to do if they have RVs on there with no water? I just, I hate these items that are A, B, C, D, or, a bunch of stuff combined instead of just one item to explain their intent and what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But my concerns are the HOA and with no water in case of fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Do we have any additional public comment?
I have none on the phone.
Okay, having none on the phone and none in the chambers, we'll close public comment. Was there a question for staff, did I hear?
Questions for staff, and Amy beat me to it, but as Mr. Dush just said, all he wants to change in the zoning is the 1.82 acres, and this says 10.43. So if we make a motion to approve, how do we make sure it's not 10.43 and it's only 1.82?
You could just in the motion specify that it's only for the 1.82 as depicted in the site plan.
Okay. My second question is, all of this reverts back to what it used to be when they move it to the new location. How do you guys make sure that happens?
Well, so we did put that as.
I understand doing it, but how do we?
Once they move to a new location, they will have to go through site development or zone changes or whatever for the new location.
But at that time, somehow you remember to go back to this one and change it back?
We will put into our, we can put it into our OpenGov system as a reminder that it'll say to look at to change the zoning back to the previous zone.
Thank you. I forgot about OpenGov. Thanks.
We don't rely on brains anymore. We rely on the computer.
All right, any further questions or discussion on this? All right, then I will entertain a motion on this.
I move to recommend approval to the BOCC of ZCMP-23-4 and approve CU-23-4 on the identified 1.82 acres identified on the site plan, and deny the WV-23-6 based upon the findings as outlined within the staff report and subject to conditions stipulated within.
All right, we have a motion to approve and deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Second. Ooh, a lot of seconds. That was. Okay, I'll call for the motion or call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Turner.
Aye.
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 All right. All right, moving on to item number 13, for possible action, TA-20, discussion and deliberation on a proposed text amendment to Nye County Code Title 17, Section 17.04.230, SE Suburban Estates Residential, removing subsistence farming as a permissive use and adding farms for the raising/growing of tree and bush crops and/or field crops for commercial or household use. This item is a recommendation by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission to the Board of County Commissioners. Staff.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. A little history on this item. Back in October, I believe, of 2016, we removed livestock from the Suburban Estates zoning district. Then back again in 2020, there was an error where it was actually added back in when we introduced subsistence farming. And this is now to clean up all that language, because the whole purpose of the suburban estates was to not have the large animal or the livestock in that zoning district. So now it allows them to have the farming of the bush crops and the trees without the animals.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? Seeing none? Alrighty, then I'll open up public comment. If there's any comment, please come on down, state your name, spell your last name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
I have no public comment on the phone.
Having none on the phone and none in the chambers, we'll close public comment. Any further discussion?
Staff, question for staff. Are we approving bill number 23-02, or are we approving TA-20?
You're recommending approval to the Board of County Commissioners of Bill 23-2. It's the internal application of the TA.
I'm just checking before.
Chair, just a brief comment.
Sure.
I remember somebody who was sitting in your position, his name was Koenig. And I was sitting here when we did this first time, so here we are again.
I might have been down there.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve bill number 2023-02.
Do we have a second?
Madam Chair, before you get a second?
Yes, sir.
It would be a recommendation for
Recommendation
approval
to
to the Board of County Commissioners.
Recommend we approve to the Board of County Commissioners bill number 2023-02. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Is Marla telling you what to say? You can tell me, Marla, directly. You've done it plenty of times in the past.
Old home week.
I'm sorry, did we get a second on that? Okay, Commissioner Meredith seconded, then I will call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Turner.
Aye.
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 All right, on to number 14, for possible action, TA-22, discussion and deliberation on a proposed text amendment to Nye County Code Title 17, Section 17.04.430 LI Light Industrial by removing renewable energy generating facility as a permissive use. This item is a recommendation by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission to the Board of County Commissioners. Staff.
Thank you. Yes, this is also another text amendment to clean up removing the renewable energy generating facility from light industrial. Through the zoning code, there was a text amendment before that removed it from RH 9.5. So after going through the code, we found another zoning district that needed to be cleaned up. And staff was directed by the BOCC to bring back a bill to remove it as a permissive use.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have one. In this uses subject to a conditional use permit, there's sexually oriented businesses, but we might consider removing that at some point in time also. Thank you.
Removing which one?
Sexually oriented businesses.
Oh.
Of course he caught that one.
Just how far do you want to have to drive for those types of businesses?
I do have one question for staff. Does this also eliminate, like, battery storage projects, or if there's battery storage developed for anything?
No, at this point, it's just specific to solar energy generation.
Okay. All right, that was it. They're zoned properly and already developed. Different
Right,
property.
okay, yeah. My question, you said this is aiming at solar only. Are there others that this might affect? That we would want close in?
If there's something out there that's already developed, it would be designated illegal non-conforming because it was already developed before the code.
No, but I'm not talking about ones already developed. I'm saying, is there another type of renewable energy generating facility that would be more beneficial inside? If we're doing this to get rid, or if we're doing this target solar, is there stuff that we're cutting out as well?
Wind?
Wind.
Wind?
Yeah, I know we cut that one out too, yeah, all right. All right, yeah, I'm good with it. I just didn't know if there was factories that might be beneficial in the area for that.
Are you talking
If you-
like generators that are driven by gasoline and kerosene, diesel and so on? Is it-
Oh, no, I just
Okay.
didn't, I don't know of any others, that's why I didn't know if we're just taking out to get rid of one, but also, would we be
Well, it's not that
shooting
you're
ourselves in
getting
the
rid
foot?
of, we're trying to make everything properly aligned.
I do have a question, though. So, seeing as Mr. Bohannon is still in the audience, would this have any impact on your energy generation from manure that was part of your proposal?
See, that's an example.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you pulled that out of the archive.
Interesting question. So the manure.
I'm sorry, can you state your name and
I'm
spell your
sorry,
name for
Tim
the record?
Bohannon, Bohannon. The manure component we were looking at for making of bedding. So we're not using that as an energy generator. We're using that for bedding. And that would not impact that whatsoever.
Thank you for the clarification. I think I had you confused with a project I saw up in Washington State that used a similar process for energy generation.
So would renewable energy generating facility, is there still a zoning that covers that? Heavy industrial? Are we striking that from our zoning completely?
This is the last zoning that would allow for renewable energy generation.
Without a CUP or just in general period?
In general, in the PRPD.
So we wouldn't allow any renewable energy generating facilities ever again?
Well, I believe, and we'll research this further, but through a development agreement, the county has the authority to allow certain uses, but it would have to be done through a development agreement, rather than just as a permissive use and you can just go do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be for any area, so it does still give some latitude, but it would have to definitely go through the right process.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. I like a development agreement better than a use permit anyway. All right, any further discussion? Okay, then I'll open up public comment. If any member of the public wishes to speak, come on down, state your name, spell your name. 3 minutes.
I have no public comment on the phone.
Okay, having none on the phone and none in the chambers, I will close public comment. And do we have any further discussion? Okay, if not, then we'll entertain a motion.
I will recommend our approval to the Board of County Commissioners for Bill number 2023-04 as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Blackstock.
Aye.
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 All right, moving on to item number 15 for possible action, TA 23, discussion and deliberation on an application for a text amendment to Nye County Code 17.04.260 multifamily residential to allow single-family detached dwelling units in the MF multifamily zoning district. Dave Walnum, managing member, Square Trade Holdings LLC is the applicant. This item is a recommendation by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission to the Board of County Commissioners. Staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this request for a code amendment came from an applicant. It's applicant-initiated proposal, and basically all they're asking to do is to allow detached homes in multifamily. Currently, it says in the multifamily zone, only attached homes are allowed, so duplex, triplex, townhomes, apartments. But they wanted to do a project where I think they had three homes. So instead of doing a triplex, they were going to separate them a little bit, and so it'd be 3 detached homes. But the code doesn't allow that, so that's where this is coming from, and that's the only change. It doesn't change the densities or setbacks or height or anything like that. And so we didn't really see any issue with making this change, but glad to answer any questions.
So just a little bit of elaboration on that. I mean, that's exactly what this gentleman is looking for. We've gotten several inquiries over the last year with projects wanting to give still be multifamily, but give it a little bit more of a privacy aspect. Mm-hmm. So that's where they're looking for a little bit of separation, but again, densities would not change. You'd still, only be allowed 1 unit per so many square foot of acreage. So, yeah. But that's the concept people are trying to go for, to offer something more affordable, but not, like the concern that was brought up earlier, where you're sharing walls and you hear the neighbors, yelling at each other, word for word, or the baby's crying, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
any questions for staff?
Yeah, would this wouldn't lead to ability to sell them off individually, right?
This would not be a condominium project or a townhome project.
I mean, it would make it easier to go from that to that, right?
No.
Okay.
They still are going to be common property.
But theoretically, then, could I build a residential house on GC?
It's got a poke.
I don't know that there's anything that would prevent you from doing that today, actually. Yeah, no. There's no minimum amount of units.
I do too. I don't have a problem with it either. Okay, any other questions for staff at the moment? Okay, I'll open up public comment. Any public comment? State your name, spell your name for the record.
I have Amy on the line. Amy, can you speak and spell your name for the record?
Amy Nelson. Amy Nelson, Nelson. Sorry about that. I had my hand raised wrong for the last one. I pushed *5 instead of 5-star, but both of these are great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Any other public comment?
I have no other comments on the line.
Having none on the phone and none in the chambers, we'll close public comment. Is there any further discussion? Or are we ready for a motion?
I move that we recommend approval of Bill 2023-07 as written, or with the changes written.
And we're recommending to the Board of County Commissioners?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners. Do we have a second?
Second.
Fabulous. We have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote, starting with Commissioner Blackstock.
Aye.
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 All right, and we are down to item number 16. Future meetings, workshops, discussion and direction concerning items for future meetings and workshops. Set date, location, and time. So our next meeting will be May 10th, I I believe is the right date, and we'll be here in the chambers at 6 p.m. unless noticed otherwise. Do we have any topics for workshops or items of concern for staff?
You know, I have, it's just something that bothers me and probably has bothered me for quite a while. But we sit here and we go through all of these and we talk to the applicant, we talk to staff, and we all have questions about different things. And a lot of the answers we get is those questions will be answered in the site development process. So we never know what the answer is. But a lot of those answers can affect the way we vote. And I don't know the way around that, Brett. But, I mean, I hope you understand what I'm saying, because I understand what goes on in the site development process. And you guys go through a lot of stuff, like where should I pave, where shouldn't I pave, where should I put a plant, where shouldn't I, all that kind of stuff. And we ask some of the same questions, and we never really get a complete answer, because the answer is that'll be discussed at the site development process. And we may not like what comes out of that. We might, and we probably do most of the time, but there could be something that, and I, like I said, I don't know the answer, but it's something for people to think about.
I've got an answer for you. I would become very familiar with 17.05 950. That is our site development process. It spells out the requirements that are per code. And then the other section of code is 17.04. This one I might have a hard time about. But the development standards section of the code, that is what we review those plans to make sure that they comply with the code and the development standards we have. That, you know, addresses landscaping, parking requirements, obviously paving requirements like we talked about today. So provided it fits within the parameters of the code, that's what determines whether or not that site development gets approved as it's submitted, other than obviously they're going through the entitlement process at this point, and they're not gonna go through the expense of engineering. I mean, anybody that knows what they're doing is gonna handle the entitlement portion first before they go through starting to write those checks for the engineering, actual engineering aspect.
But during that process, you never waive any of those.
Not without going through the proper channels. I mean, we have very small parameter of administrative waiver ability, and it's 10% of the development standard. So if it required 100 parking spots, you know, we could administratively waive it to, you know, eliminate 10. You know, or vice versa, you know, landscape, whatever the case may be, but we do not overstep that at all. I'm a stickler on that. So if they come with a design that doesn't meet development standards, then it's, that process stalls, and they have to come back to the board and apply for a waiver.
Okay.
So that I assure you.
Okay, thank you.
Could change when I go to greener pastures somewhere, but.
Do we have any other any other topics of discussion for staff tonight?
Just to give you an update, you will be able to review and see the entire master plan at next month's meeting. Yay. We didn't put it on this month because, well, it's 8:45, so you're welcome. So just want to let you know, we haven't forgot about it. We're just waiting, and okay, cool.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right, then at this time, we'll have our second public comment. No action will be taken on matters raised under public comment until the matter itself has been included on an agenda as an action item. 3-minute time limit. Please speak, state your name and spell your last name for the record, and you have a 3-minute time limit.
This is Tim Bohannon, Bohannon. First of all, I'd like to congratulate John Koenig for being on. This is an interesting makeup of Regional Planning Commission, and one that seemed to move very quickly, even though we had a few long items. we were very snappy and very crisp with what was happening. And it's very appreciated from the audience. I also like the feedback that we're seeing across the board as different ideas, history and experience, as well as new ideas and new concepts and new thoughts. It's a nice blend. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bohannon. Do we have any other public comment?
I have Amy on the line. Amy, go ahead and speak and spell your name for the record.
Yes, Amy Nelson, Nelson. John, it was great having you tonight. Hearing all your feedback and your input always is very informative. And Marla, I wish I was there so I could say hello in person. But it was a really good meeting. I want to remind everybody that I don't just speak out here. I listen to things and I talk about them on with Anthony Greco on his radio station 97.7 FM. And if you have anything to say that I should be talking about, or you want to be on the phone and we can talk about it, just email talkradioofpahrump@gmail.com. But I loved this meeting. You guys always have a great meeting, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. We appreciate all the public comment we get. Do we have any other public comment?
I have none on the line.
All right, then having none on the phone and none in the chambers, we'll close our second public comment. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We are adjourned.